this drainage is very important. But since we use a shallow part, so we have to keep in mind that in Saikei you use a little more water. So soil-wise, I use a little more rich soil, not like bonsai with a really good drainage.
He's now putting rocks down, and I asked Frank who was his teacher of Saikei, because this art really didn't exist until after World War II, when it was developed by a man whose father was a bonsai artist, and so fairly recent compared to other arts. And they didn't really have a Saikei teacher here in Los Angeles, and a lot of it they learned from books. But he said the most helpful man was not a bonsai artist, but was a landscape architect. And he knew, he was great at helping them decide where to put the rocks, which will become mountains. So that was part of his history with it.
Okay, now in Saikei, usually we put arrange rocks first, then you plant the tree.
You say so.
I'm facing the front, so this is the front here.
And you'll see why as he keeps working, why that's a front, what makes it the front. And there will only be, it'll be clear that that's the only place it would be logical to have the front of it. When, and Frank does this fairly often at meetings like this or at bonsai conventions, and so they sell for hundreds of dollars, and at the auction, the last one that I went to, sold for $1,600. So unless, well, you might have, but unless you put in $1,600, someone here is going to get a bargain. But I wanted you to have some idea of what the value might be. It's always hard to put a value on art, and I knew that Frank would be too humble to bring it up. Junipers are used very often in bonsai for a few reasons. Not most, but a lot of bonsai trees are evergreens, because although you can make them with almost any kind of plant, but if you use a plant that has very big leaves, it's not going to be in proportion to the bonsai. So with something that has needles, it works easier. And junipers, especially this kind of juniper, are very hardy. I haven't killed one yet, and I learned the other day also that they're very hard to overwater, so that's good, because I'm always, like a lot of people, wondering, is this too much? Frank is considered to be one of the top, 5 bonsai artists in the country, and certainly the top Saikei artist. And his works are the Hunting Gardens, and a special honor was when he was asked for a Saikei to be at the National Arboretum in Washington. And so one of his Saikeis is on permanent display there.
Excuse me. Rock placement and tree placement is about done.
Okay. Okay, the rocks and the trees are placed where he'd like them to be. And tell again, which is the front? This is the front. So this lower one, for the perspective to make this even look farther away, it makes sense to have the smaller ones in the back and the largest one over there.
Most important thing is direction of rock and direction of tree should match. What I mean is that this direction of this rock is this way. You see the tree growing this way? And the tree is also growing this way. Should match.
It's not a coincidence.
And you notice that the height of the rocks is different. Oh, I got a 4 or 5 rocks, and height of the rock is different. Height of the tree is different. So you see difference of skyline.
Again, it's a representation of something you'd find in nature, and again, obviously, if they all were the same size, it wouldn't look like nature. Saikei means something literally like nature scene, and bonsai, by the way, was a plant in a tray, so it's somewhat different. As I said, it's compared to bonsai, it's a relatively young art.
These are their maximum height, right? That's it, this size.
It's not going to grow much.
No.
Again, because of the depth, things might fill in, so you might have more foliage. But if they start to go up too high, yeah.
Is it imperative to change the soil every 5 years, you said? It's imperative.
This is good for Saikei.
It's bad news for me. It means I'm going to have to change the soil.
And rearrange the rocks.
I guess Frank's going to get a call, an invitation. Well, how do you know when it's time to change the soil? I mean, if everything looks good, you leave it alone? Frank, when do you know, if the trees all look green, everything's going okay, do you still change the soil?
No.
No, leave it alone. So obviously, when you repot anything, it's important that these roots don't get dry during this process. So they were pretty wet when you put them here, and we'll continue to spray them and keep them wet during the whole process.
Are these strictly outdoor plants?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what Frank said to my wife and me last week, about one of the things that he likes so much about Saikei is that you can't always travel to some beautiful place in nature, but if you have this, you go to your backyard and look at it, and he does get the feeling of tranquility and everything else that he would experience if he were out in nature. So from that standpoint, it's a very practical gift.
Where's the location in California we can see these trees in nature?
In nature.
Up by Monterey?
Where do they live?
Here in Palisades. Well, you go Lake Tahoe, Monterey, you see a lot of trees shaped by nature, and it's beautiful. So you take a picture, and you could have your own imaginary scenery.
He does make all these cuttings, and obviously he's a very patient man, so he'll wait. So each of those trees came from some other tree that he was using. It was probably in a bonsai pot right now.
This is a basic question. How do you take care of them?
Okay. You water them often, probably not as often as it had all those stones. And fertilizer, well, Frank likes to do something that I have never seen anyone else do. He puts fertilizer in an empty tea bag, attaches it to the tree so that the fertilizer is gradually given to the plant instead of just dumping it there once a month or something like that. What kind of fertilizer do you like, Frank?
Well, pretty good fertilizer from Japan, and it's not too strong, and just right for small tree like this. You could get those fertilizer at Bonsai nursery, or somebody Bonsai people has those, so you could get from these people.
Do you use any other kind of plants for Saikei besides juniper?
Yes, you could use any kind, but with the smaller leaves, because you see in Saikei,
You want it to be in proportion.
proportion is very important too. So you're not going to use a big leaf trees bigger than rocks. That doesn't make any good scenery. So you gotta think about those things. Don't let the trees grow taller than trees, things like that. And if you use the flowers, use the smaller ones.
Now, he's planting a flower right now, which,
It's Mondo grass, right?
Mondo grass.
Yeah,
grass.
Mondo grass.
It's a Mondo grass, miniature kind.
Yeah.
So it looks like it wouldn't be deep enough to put that in there, but he just made a little hole. It's still not very deep, but it fits, the roots fit in there. Do you remember, Laurel?
What's the question?
How many drainage holes there are in the bottom?
Two about each hole. So you don't have to worry about drainage.
Where can you get the tray for Saikei?
Well, any bonsai nursery should have.
So again, I think Yamaguchi would be a good place to start.
Do the flowers die off, or they live for a long time?
They don't die off.
No.
These are very aggressive.
It's hardy and
Yeah, they're hardy and also they grow a lot. I mean, I know that I have to cut them shorter a couple times a year.
they bloom almost all year round.
They do bloom, yeah. They bloom almost all year around. I get nervous when they're not blooming at all, that they're never going to bloom again, and they bloom again. So this stuff that he's putting on now, is this muck? It's called muck. And there's probably a lot of clay in it, or often he refers to it as just sticky soil, so that it's going to be on the edges of things, and it's very malleable, but you'll still be able to plant on top of it.
Is it adobe soil?
That works real well. I don't know if this particular one, did you make this mixture, or did you just dig it up from somewhere?
Yeah, you dig a garden soil, but
We can't hear him.
Yeah, I know. He's
deep you find that very sticky mud soil, and you mix with the spider moss and you use this for the place.
I know, I'm just waiting for him to finish his sentence.
Why don't you give him the mic?
So what he does is digs up regular, dirty, muddy kind of soil and puts sphagnum moss with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes if there's some kind of clay material, that helps it too. There's a clay that we use called akadama that sometimes goes in there. I know you're a big muck guy, so You're not gonna sell more when he's finished?
Oh, it's not finished?
No, come on. You got people sabotaging you every step of the way. This is a difficult thing. Remember, $1,600. I'm just tossing that out there. And Frank has threatened to retire in 50 years, in which case there won't be any new ones, so just saying, you know, this might be the time. If anyone's here with any young children or babies, it would be a great, it would be a great investment, and you can watch him grow as you watch this grow. So if you don't, it depends how much you care about the kid, really, I guess. You know. So it's up to you. Anyway. Very short line now at the tickets, by the way. So Frank is now putting on these very, very small stones, all sort of whitish-looking stones. And what kind of stones are they? They're called anything special? The river. Just sand, really. Coarse kind of sand. And so now, Joyce, what do you think he's putting there? Why? What's he making with this whitish-looking sand there? What is that going to represent?
We can have a beach. We have a beach.
Kind of. This is a river. So,
Yes, in Orient, when you portray the scenery, you use rocks, trees, and water, something that represents water. This is what it is supposed to be.
so those are the elements always: rocks, trees, and water. Some kind of water effect, whether it's a lake, water, river, a pond. And when you came up and looked, I mean, I'm just looking at it now. I mean, the big rock is really a magnificent rock, and as Frank said, you sort of understand the way it's leaning. And
That I value my stones.
that's right.
That was in the, next to the river side. Naples, Florida.
It's making the river look neater and smoother, flatter. Yeah, it's just a hard brush. Would you say this is an island, or how would you characterize it?
Island in the distance. But don't use strong water, otherwise you're going to mash up the
Okay, saying that you don't have to go so far as use a sprayer for down here, but don't use too strong water because it's going to move things around.
Yeah, I understand.
Like that. So, especially one this size, it'd probably be a good idea to use a sprayer.
It's using tap water we talked about, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's better to use more purified water, but when would you start fertilizing it?
You don't have to wait 3 years. You don't have to be.
What did he say?
He said he doesn't need fertilizer. He certainly doesn't need fertilizer for a while, in terms of months.
The tree gets kind of yellowish leaves instead of yellow, green leaves. Then you feed the plants.
So if it looks healthy, leave it alone. Don't fertilize it. And if it starts to not look so healthy, then fertilize it.
What's the sign of being unhealthy?
The color of the leaves, foliage, if it turns yellowish or brownish, that would be a good idea. And again, as he said, and then I later repeated, this particular kind of juniper is very hardy, so it's unlikely that you're going to have a big problem as far as with water or fertilizer. It's not like years from now, you know.
This will be the shooter. How long is this machine for? before you put it out where you got sun and...
Would you keep this in the shade for a month or two?
Yeah, I was going to tell you.
Okay.
Now the most important thing is you keep it in shade, at least the same shade, in order to keep the moss green. Tree is okay, but if you leave it in the sun, this moss going to turn yellow, brown. So it's nice to have this one in the shade, full shade.
For how long?
Well, he's saying to keep it in the shade, and not worry so much.
Can you use a screen, one of those screens?
Yes, I think it's a great idea.